Welcome to Experts Weekly, hosted by Bob Baer and brought to you by SeegerPublishing.com. Experts Weekly is a highly educational show focusing on publishing, marketing, branding, public speaking, and publicity. The Experts Weekly show features outstanding guests, including best-selling authors, highly sought-after speakers, successful entrepreneurs, strategists, trainers, visionaries, and thought leaders. Experts Weekly, where best-selling experts reveal proven strategies, tools, and tactics to succeed, profit, and make an impact. And now with you, your expert host, Bob Baer.
Good day, and welcome to another edition of Experts Weekly. This is Bob Baer, along with our special guest this week, Mike Wolf. Mike is a 23-year-old veteran of the real estate industry. He helps people make a comeback, actually, as his new upcoming book will be titled The Comeback. Mike Wolf used to come down from Canada and bring groups of investors, first from Canada, then from Southeast Asia and other countries, and help people invest in American real estate. And he's discovered a new business model. He's discovered that after this last recession in real estate, there is really a need for Americans that have lost their retirement portfolio, that have lost funds, that need to make a comeback themselves. There is a need for Americans to be able to buy American again. Mike Wolf specializes in helping people invest and develop passive income from real estate. Mike Wolf, welcome to Experts Weekly.
Thanks for having me, Bob. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you in Dallas. You've been here for a few days. I spent time with you and met you in other cities all over the U.S. And basically, that's kind of pretty much what you do, isn't it? You travel.
Pretty much, yeah. I live on the road. I'm all over the place, and we're always looking for new opportunities, as well as different. I like to network and meet people all over the place, whether it be in Canada or the U.S. And I've actually worked with people all over the world. But yeah, I definitely live on the road, and I love that lifestyle. And it was created by practicing what I preach, and that's through passive income and having real estate basically. Give me my paychecks every month, whether I'm working, lying on the beach, or whatever I'm doing, the money still comes in. So
when we talk about real estate investing, Mike, usually I have some buzzwords and maybe some misconceptions that come to mind. I remember some of the books about no money down, and I remember a lot of hype about flipping houses, but you aren't really related to either of those realms, are you?
Well, you can actually do legitimate deals with no money of your own down, and one of the things that I teach my students is how to basically get other investors to help pay for your investments. So it is possible, although a lot of those courses were just meant to sell people on a dream, where if you have no money, you can become a millionaire overnight, and they made it sound too good to be true, and it usually really is too good to be true. However, my big message is that although there's all these shows on flipping homes on TV, which are not the most realistic, to be honest with you, I mean, all that stuff can be done, but you're always going to see on TV the best case scenario. What I really preach, though, at the end of the day is, for me, if you're going to be a real estate investor and you want to do this for the long term, like I've been doing, as you mentioned, I've been doing this for over 20 years, basically what you want to do is you want to create passive income, and that's through holding properties. It doesn't make a very sexy TV show. Buy and hold a property and get rich slow in real estate. But the bottom line is most wealthy people I know all got wealthy by buying and holding real estate. And, at the end of the day, I do flip some homes here and there. But if it weren't for the ones that I kept, basically I wouldn't have the lifestyle that I lead, because you can buy a home and flip it, but then it's like a job. You sell the home, now you're looking for your next property. Whereas if you buy and hold, basically that property will give you income indefinitely if you're buying strategically. And something that makes sense if you bought it now is going to make even more sense as time goes on, because as inflation kicks in, you're going to see, first of all, your rent going up, so your return on investment gets higher as time goes on, and plus appreciation. I mean, real estate's very tied to inflation, and over time, every now and then an opportunity arises, like right now with a recession, where you have an opportunity to buy properties for really low. And of course, people get scared, and the media always, will tell you all the bad things that are going on. And The thing you need to know is that real estate is very cyclical. It follows the same pattern over and over and over again, and it becomes very predictable. So if you're like me and you see a recession kicking in, everybody's afraid to buy, I'm out scooping up as many properties as I can get, because I know that it's just a matter of time until the media will tell you, hey, wow, the economy is recovering, there's jobs being created. Now, if you're going to get into real estate, now is the time. And by the time they tell you that, it's too late. And the people that are making the most money are the people who have already bought. And so these properties continue to go up in value. If you're smart, you're leveraging strategically. You're not over-leveraging like a lot of people do. That's why a lot of people get in trouble, is because they'll over-borrow on a house. To me, every property I own has to give me passive income and positive cash flow. I never want to have to support it, because my goal is to have freedom to travel and do whatever I want. And you lose that freedom when all of a sudden you have to start shelling out money every month for that house that you want to own.
Let me go back a few years, Mike. A lot of people that listen to this show are people that in one way or another consider themselves an expert. They may be a speaker, an author, an expert in their field. And one of the things when I interview people, I usually like to go back and find out how they became an expert.
Okay, absolutely.
In your case, did you start doing this for yourself?
I did, absolutely, and I'll go way back in time, and we'll go back to my university days. And originally, I wanted to be a lawyer, and at the University of Calgary, which is I'm from Calgary, Canada. At that university, there isn't a pre-law program. So if you want to be a lawyer, you have to get a degree in something else first, and then apply to law school. And so I got my degree in psychology, and basically I thought, well, if my dad was a psychologist, so I thought my dad could do it, can't be that tough. So I got a degree in psychology, and by the time I had finished and got the degree, I had amassed quite a fairly, what I thought was a substantial amount of money at the time and worth of student loans. And so I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to pay this off before I apply to law school because I don't want to get more in debt. And so what happened is a friend of mine, his mother was a manager at a phone company. Back then it was government run, and so it was union, paid very well. And I thought, yeah, I'll work there for a year, I'll pay off my student loans, and then I'll go and apply to law school. And what ended up happening was because it was union, I would get the worst shifts available, which happened to be split shifts. And so I would work 9 in the morning till noon, have the afternoon off, then work again 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah, it took up my whole day, and I really hated it. I liked the money, but I didn't really like those hours. And so the only good thing about that was we were allowed to trade. And so I would trade my shifts with other people. And the funny thing is nobody else could get rid of them. If they got, if they got scheduled a split shift, they'd end up having to work it. And for whatever reason, I could always get rid of mine. And people go, well, how do you do that? How do you always get rid of them? We always get stuck working ours. What is it you're doing? I go, I don't know. I just ask, and people trade with me. And so people go, you got to go into sales. And so I never thought of myself as a salesperson. And even to this day, when I think of the traditional sense of the word, I think of a car salesman, and I think I'm very far from that. But I decided, well, maybe there's something to this. And so I thought, well, you know what? If I'm going to sell something, I might as well sell the most expensive thing, and that's real estate. And so I became a realtor. And being a realtor does not prepare you for being a real estate investor, by the way, in any way. However, what ended up happening is, basically I kind of got lucky in that all the staff at the phone company thought, wow, this guy's a master negotiator. We want him to buy our home, help us buy our home or help him sell our home because he's so good at negotiating. And so I kind of got a fast start. Usually as a real estate realtor, it's very difficult to get established. It takes a long time. And I was very lucky. I had all these clients that wanted to work with me right off the bat. And so it turned out to be, that kind of got me started. But what I ended up realizing is that I got kind of sick of taking people to look at homes all day because there's a lot of emotion involved. And, they look at a home and it's like, wow, it's a perfect layout, perfect location, but I don't like the color of the carpets and the paint. Well, you can change all that. And so to me, it just seems very logical. But to other people, it's like, oh, I want it to be just exactly how I want it right now. And I got kind of sick of that. But over time, I started to work with people that were investing in property. And I noticed they didn't really care about the color of the carpets. They just cared about the numbers. And that kind of resonated with me. And so I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And so I started to find properties for them. And I had a knack for it. And so I managed to get a few investors that would buy. Anytime I found a good deal, they would buy it from me. And I would get the commission. They'd, of course, make a much bigger killing buying the property. So as time went on, I started to find these properties, and I started to have enough money to do them on my own. And so I would either do joint ventures with these investors and say, well, you know what, I'm not just going to hand you these deals anymore in a silver platter because now I can do them myself. But if you want to put up the money, I'll keep finding the deals and we can split them. And so I started to do that and started to do some deals on my own. And I decided that at that time that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is fun to me. It resonated with me. I just loved it. And once again, I just got into it kind of by mistake. I never really set out to do that. My goal was to be a lawyer. I'm so glad I didn't. No offense to any lawyers that are listening right now, but that's just not me. That now that I look back, it just wouldn't have been me. And so I stumbled upon this by mistake. And so what I realize now is when I meet people that are just starting out in real estate, if I can sit there and teach them what I've learned over the last 20 some odd years, and they're strategic about it, and that's actually their passion to be a real estate investor, I can help them be strategic and avoid the pitfalls. There's a lot of advantage to that. But that's basically how I became an expert. But the funny thing is that for the vast majority of these 23 years I've been doing real estate, for most of that time I was just doing it for myself, totally under the radar. And I was mostly doing it in Canada. About 7 years ago, I started for the first time investing in the U.S., and that was in Las Vegas. And I just happened to go in there on vacation, and it kind of gets in your blood. You kind of get addicted to this real estate stuff. And even when you're on vacation, you look at properties. And so I noticed that every month I'd go there, the prices would be up. And so I investigated and found out that people from L.A. and other parts of Southern California were moving to Las Vegas to reduce their cost of living. And so I saw that as a big opportunity. So I started buying up properties and flipping them to investors from, or not investors, people that wanted to be homeowners from LA, and turned that into my main focus. That became my main career. And the funny thing is back then, the Canadian dollar was at 70 cents. Now it's almost par. But right back then it was very low. And so all my Canadian friends thought I was nuts. They go, what, you're changing your Canadian money and you're taking 100 grand and it's only 70 grand? And what are you doing? Are you sure you know what you're doing? But I did very well with it. And all of a sudden, a few years later, the recession kicks in. And now, out of the blue, I start to see all my Canadian friends who thought I was nuts. Canada was very sheltered from the recession compared to America. And so all my Canadian friends who used to make fun of me would start to call me and go, hey, we want to buy a place in Vegas or Phoenix or Florida, fill in the blank, all those popular markets. How do we do it? And so I became the go-to guy by mistake once again. And so all these people, they had questions. If you're a foreigner trying to buy U.S. real estate, you have questions about the taxation and liability protection, and how do I move my money, how do I convert my currency, and I kind of became an expert at this by mistake, by making some mistakes along the way, and paying too much on my currency exchange. I learned all these things the expensive way, and so when people would come to me, I'd say, oh, well, make sure you don't do this, because this is what I used to do, don't do that, and so all of a sudden I started to get calls from different agencies saying, hey, we want to do seminars across Canada, and we're looking for an investor that's spoken in the U.S. Can you come, speak for us? And I go, well, I'm not a speaker. I've never done that. I'm a real estate investor. I just do this for myself. And to make a long story short, I got coerced to do it, and I was terrified, and I never really saw myself doing that. But after a few times, I started to get more and more comfortable doing it, and I started to be on the stage more and more often all across Canada. And basically led to a whole different side of my career where I basically became a mentor for people and a trainer. And I noticed that we had two different types of people that would come to my events. And on the one hand, we'd have people that would come and say, man, I love what you're doing, Mike. I want to live your lifestyle. I want to travel and find deals. And so that led to different programs where I do different tours, where I take people, for instance, right here in Texas, I take people to the real estate auctions and teach them how to buy tax deed auctions, meaning when people don't pay their property taxes, the county will put their homes up for auction. You can get properties for pennies on the dollar. So I teach those people that want to get their hands dirty how to do that. But then I have a whole other side of the room that will say, oh, well, we thought real estate's supposed to get rich quick. We didn't know there was work involved because they watched too many of those, flip this house sort of shows on TV that make it look really easy. And for those people, I basically buy big packages of homes. We take the properties and fix them all up. We put tenants in place, put a property management team in place, and make it totally turnkey, so it's very, very easy. And so it appeals to people like doctors and lawyers and engineers that don't necessarily want to quit their jobs to be real estate investors. Doctors, their passion is medicine. This isn't what they want to do, but they want to get a better return on their money. And so we help them to acquire properties where we've taken all the mistakes, all the guesswork out of it, done all the, everything that we can in our power to make it as safe as possible and give them a really good return on investment. And so basically that's become my career for the last 4 or 5 years. And once again, it wasn't really on my radar. I still continue to buy properties for myself, but now a whole big division of what of my business is, speaking and helping other people to get started in this business. And now, as you know, through your help, I'm going to be working on that book, which I hope will help a lot of people as well.
But you've really done something similar to what I did in sticking with your passion. I mean, I was an entrepreneur for years and started numerous businesses, but when I wrote my first book and got my first book published, I discovered I really enjoyed that. I really liked it.
Mm.
And so now what I'm doing is helping other people get their book written, walking them through the tightrope and the loops and the hoops and helping them to avoid mistakes. And I find that really enjoyable. And it sounds like that's what you enjoy. Not only did you do it yourself, but now there's just an extra pleasure in helping other people avoid the mistakes and helping them get a good experience instead of a bad experience.
Well, yeah, that's just it. You know, I get a lot of people come to my events and they say, well, you know, we got kind of turned off of real estate because we did this or we did that. And, you know, real estate, like I said, can be very predictable, but there's a lot of people that don't even know the basics. They're just, you know, they just see, you know, from their friends, or we've all been taught how that real estate's supposed to be a great investment. Well, as many people know who lost their home during the past recession, you know, real estate can be really good or really bad depending on how well educated you are and how well you know the cycle. You know, what we tend to see is that at different parts of the cycle, we have different types of I'll say quote-unquote investors getting into the market. And so when things are going up and the news is good on TV, a lot of speculators tend to get into the market. And they don't really know what they're doing. They haven't been educated. They're just making money based on the fact that homes are going up. Anybody can make money when homes go up. However, that cycle doesn't last forever. And so what we find is during boom times, we have a speculator who sells a home to another speculator, who sells a home to another speculator. Well, the bottom line is that at the end of that, you know, the transfer of this home, if there's not an end buyer at the very end, somebody gets left holding the bag on a very overpriced piece of property. And so, you know, once again, if you're educated, you'll never be the guy buying at an inflated price. Every house you buy is either going to get you closer to your goal, which means freedom and travel and being able to do what I want to do, or it takes you further away. And so if you're buying a property where you're paying a premium on the property, and if your goal is to rent it, if you're not getting enough rent and your return on investment is too low, you know, you might be putting yourself in a really bad spot. And that's what we see during boom times is people get greedy and they're buying, but they don't really know what they're doing. And a lot of people will get lucky on their first transaction if they're buying at uptimes because, you know, they see something on TV, it inspires them, and they go out and they buy their first property and they flip it and they make some money, and all of a sudden in their mind they think they're an expert. They just got lucky. That's just like going to Vegas, playing roulette, putting all your money on red. Just because it came up red doesn't mean you're smart. It means you got lucky. Red might even come up a second time, but eventually if you play it long enough, black comes up and you'll lose everything.
And so that can be actually dangerous because they become overconfident.
Right. I have a friend of mine in Calgary, and I tried to help him, and he didn't listen to me, and he thought he had figured out a way to win the lottery during the boom time. And so he actually quit his job, and he did very well on maybe 2 or 3 flips. And then he started to get really cocky, and he invested all his money, and I knew the end was coming. Back in Calgary, there was an article on the front page of the newspaper, and it said home prices going up $1,000 per day. Well, somebody who owns a lot of properties in Calgary, that's very exciting and enticing. However, that's not sustainable. People's wages aren't going up fast enough to qualify for those kind of increases in home prices. So at the end of the day, what ends up happening in a market like that is, you know, when 2-income families can't even afford to buy a 1-bedroom apartment, people start to move away to lower their cost of living, much like people did in Southern California at one point. So the same thing was happening. People were leaving Calgary, and of course, you know, that's the beginning of the end. When you see that in the newspaper, you know that that's not sustainable. And so somebody like myself, you know, I'd be selling off the properties while I still could while people were fighting, and then taking my money and moving it to a different market that's down at the bottom of the cycle. Yet a lot of people, they keep thinking, oh, this is going to go on forever. And for those of you who know Calgary, it's an oil city. And one of the arguments I would always hear is, well, as long as we've got oil, prices will go up forever. Well, it doesn't matter that we've got oil. People have to still be able to afford, you know, their mortgage payment, and they can't put food on their table. And if they can't afford that, they're going to look for somewhere more, less expensive. And so what ends up happening is exactly what I predicted, and that was a big decline in the prices. And I pulled as much money out as I could, although it didn't really matter because I bought strategically. All the homes, even if they went up in value, they still made sense. And the people that were buying the homes off me at that point, they were buying stuff that, you know, if they were using it to buy and hold, it wasn't going to work. And the only way they could flip it was as long as the market kept going up. And so at some point they may have flipped it. They may have made, you know, profit over and above what they had paid me. But at some point somebody got stuck with that property, and they would have probably lost it in a foreclosure unless they had, you know, enough money to sustain that. So, you know, real estate's much like any other business. Everything you purchase should be 2 things. Firstly, it should be sustainable, meaning it's putting money in your pocket every month, puts food on your table, long as it's sustainable, then you're okay. You never have to sell it. It doesn't matter if you paid $100. If it goes down to $50, it doesn't matter as long as it still puts food on the table. But what you also want is you want that appreciation, because when the homes appreciate, that allows you to add to your portfolio, get some more properties, and eventually replace your earned income by going to a job every day with passive income where you don't have to work if you don't want. That's how you get your freedom. So it's very hard to do with just one property unless you have a very low cost of living. But as time goes on, as these properties go up, if you're strategic and you can borrow against it, you can now go buy a second property in a market that's still low. And so it's all very strategic. But there's a lot of people who don't know the strategy. They don't know the basics. They don't understand the real estate cycle. And most people will always end up losing in the long run because it all takes one mistake and it can wipe you out.
Before I forget, Mike, let's take a quick break. And before I ask the next question, I just want to find out if there's somebody listening to this that is enjoying listening to you and they want to get in touch with you. Where do they go to find out more about it?
Well, they can go to my website, which is MikeWolfMastery.com, MikeWolfMastery.com. They can call me toll free, 1-888-265-0662. That's 1-888-265-0662. That'll work anywhere in North America. And if you're out of North America, I don't know if where your listeners are based, just go to the website and you can get my email address and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question that would be of interest to anybody that is in a niche and is an expert like you are in your niche, and that is, how do you go about finding new clients? How do you spread the word? Where does your new business come from?
Yeah, well, a lot of it, fortunately, comes from word of mouth for me. But if you don't have that, I mean, it's really important to obviously take advantage of the tools that are available today. Things like, social media, things like putting videos on YouTube, just getting your message out there. And although when I first started speaking, I was the Canadian expert for investors wanting to buy in the U.S. That's what I was known as. But as I started to make some video content, I found that I got asked the same questions over and over and over again. And I thought, instead of answering them over and over, why don't I just put them all on YouTube and then just refer people to my YouTube channel. They can watch the videos and I'll answer their questions. And so what ended up happening, though, is I started to get people from different parts of the world were taking notice, sending emails saying, well, we know you're the Canadian expert, but can you help somebody like us from Australia or the Netherlands or wherever? We've had clients from all over the world. And, the same stuff that would apply to a Canadian would apply to anybody in their country as well. We all have the same challenges. The answer to the questions might be slightly different depending on how their government's set up and their taxation, but for the most part, the answers are all the same. And so it's really important to get your name out there. And some of the stuff that's worked really well for me is social media. So a lot of times it's kind of funny. I'll be doing one of my tours here in Texas, and we'll have a bunch of clients on the tour, and one of them will post a picture on Facebook. And I have a bit of a ice cream habit, you could call it. And so I tend to take my students for ice cream at least once a day. And so people find humor in that. And so quite often they'll take a picture of us all having ice cream together and they'll post it on their on their Facebook page. And then all of a sudden I'll get calls out of the blue from people that that are friends of these people that saw them eating ice cream. They go, what's this guy doing eating ice cream in Texas? What's going on here? And then they'll find out about my tour. From my bad habit of eating ice cream, it actually makes me some money. So it's kind of funny how social media works. And I think just, put your authentic self out there, be yourself, and, let people fall in love with you for who you are, and you'll attract the right people. And that makes your, if you're an expert at something, if you can attract the people that are similar to you, that makes it a lot of fun, and it keeps the fun in it. If you start to attract people where, they're willing to pay you, but they're not, if you're a tribe, I guess you could say, they're not the right mindset, then it's a lot more challenging. It's a lot more fun working with like-minded people. So for me, my passion is to create a community of like-minded individuals, which I would consider to be educated investors that get, how these things work, how to make money in this business, and then all share ideas and believe in abundance. We all know there's enough properties out there for everybody to get. And those are the type of people I like to attract, and that's how that's what I do attract. And so it's all about putting who you are out there. When I post stuff on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, it's not all business. It's, I say to people, hey, this is what I'm doing today, and we're having ice cream in this city, and we just talk a little bit more about lifestyle and the things that are, unique to me, and the things that make me, things that make me happy, and that will attract like-minded people. And so I think it's very, very important to get your message out there, and people will eventually find you. Especially if you're, if you're out there and you're posting in the right channels and getting the right people on board, it all falls into place. The other thing I would recommend is old school stuff too, and that's networking, getting out there and meeting, people that are, once again, like-minded and going to different events. I fly to, even though I'm from Canada, I fly to Los Angeles every single month to attend a meeting there, because there's some very high-level people that show up at this particular meetup group. And so, that's also a big part in getting your message out there. So you see a combination of old school and new school. It's never been really easier, if you think about it, to get your message out to the people.
Let me ask you a little bit more difficult question. This is kind of a 60-minute type question.
Yeah.
In the field of teaching people to invest in real estate, I've known a lot of people that, at least some people, that have gone to a real estate seminar for their life. They pay a few $100s to go. They buy maybe, a larger package, $4,000 or $5,000 worth of training, and then while they're in that package, they're sold a coaching package for maybe $40,000, $50,000. And by the time they're through with all that training, they sometimes don't have enough money left to invest. What's your response to that? How do you handle that sort of thing?
I think you have to be very careful what you're buying, and I would definitely do a lot of research before I shell out that kind of money. And I mean, that formula is very common these days, and that's what a lot of people are doing. You have to make sure that, once again, you got to do a lot of due diligence on the people that you're investing your money in. Because quite often they'll try and sell you their own properties, which may or may not be a good deal. So make sure what you're getting is education and not propaganda, because quite often these people will basically get you excited about what they've got, and sometimes what they've got could be good, but other times not necessarily. So to give you an example, as I mentioned, I buy big packages of properties, and I do sell them to my investors and my students. What I do, though, with my students is I teach them how to analyze a deal, so they can figure out what's a good deal, what's a bad deal for themselves. And so if I was trying to sell them something that was bad, they would call me on it and say, Mike, you told us to check for this, this, and this, and this property you're selling us, this doesn't fit the mold. So I can actually arm them with the ammunition where they could actually criticize me if I was trying to rip them off. And that's basically what I think, people need to do, is take responsibility for their own finances these days. And, I think it's up, unfortunately, financial literacy isn't taught in schools. And so many people are trusting their money, their retirement money, in these mutual funds and all these other products where, the hedge funds, there's just so much stuff out there. And the people that are investing their money aren't looking out for their, the people's interests. They're looking out for their own interests. And so you have to be very careful who you're dealing with. I have no problem. I would gladly pay $50,000 for a course or a mentorship if there's going to be a return on investment where, investing at $50,000 was going to, I made $100,000. Absolutely, that's an investment. But if you're investing $50,000, you said propaganda, and you're being led down a path where the ultimate goal is for you to buy their stuff that doesn't really make sense. It's not going to help you in your portfolio. That's not good. And so I'd encourage, people to basically, these days you have a lot of information at your fingertips. Google the people that you're thinking of investing in, see what other people's experiences have been, and just be careful. I mean, when you see these, free courses, there's usually going to be a sales pitch, and what they're selling you can be good or it can be very bad. And unfortunately, in the real estate industry, I find there's more bad than good, because there's obviously the lure of, quick money, and if you get a whole bunch of people in the room, and a certain number of them are going to buy your stuff no matter what, because they don't know how to analyze the deal. So it's just really, really important to make sure you know who you're getting involved with. And I get people approaching me every day that run some of these seminar companies, and they want to sell my stuff. And I always look at how they're getting their students and how much they're charging their students. And if I feel that their students are getting ripped off before they come to me, I don't want to deal with them, because I don't want to put my name or be affiliated with these people in any way. I don't want to. People say, oh, well, we spent all this money on education, and we got a good property, but we spent $50,000 to get it, and we could have just got the property without all the education. So I want to make sure that the customers are going to be happy from start to finish with, whoever they got their education from to the point where they bought the property, and then after that, the servicing, making sure their tenant's paying, and from start to finish, I want to make sure everybody who I deal with is happy. And so very, very important, once again, just to make sure, do your homework, and don't, a lot of times there's a lot of pressure on you while you're in the room, and it's like, well, if you don't sign it now, the price goes up, and this and that, and all those tactics. For me, when I do live events, a lot of times it's not even a sales pitch, it's just strictly information. And people, after they hear, I show them how to analyze a deal or how to see where we are in the real estate cycle, after I teach them, even if I don't have a call to action saying, sign up with me or I've got this, this, and this, I just basically give people my business card. If they're interested, they can call me later, and if they want to buy properties, I can help them. If they want education, I can help them. And I much prefer to do it that way because, like I said, I'm trying to build a community of like-minded people, not people that were brainwashed or forced into something. I want it to be right for them. So that's a long answer to a short question.
The short answer is you need to do due diligence on the people that are going to give you the training, not just in the real estate.
Yeah, not just the properties themselves. We got to do it on the people that are involved because you can take a good deal, and if you have the wrong property management team, that good deal could turn into a bad deal. You have to be really, really careful. Everybody who's on the team from start to finish is going to determine what sort of real estate experience you have. And unfortunately, I do meet a lot of people that got mixed up with the wrong teams to start with, and then I have to try and fix what they got themselves into and then get them on the right path. And that's always harder than taking somebody who's never done anything. I'd rather take them while they're fresh before they made their mistakes and help them to avoid all the pitfalls. And that could be there depending on what sort of strategy they're doing.
The working title of the book that you're writing is called The Comeback. Mm-hmm. What's your mission with that book?
The mission is actually, it's twofold actually, because the comeback refers to a couple of things. One is it refers to the economy and how that's coming back, and how people really need to get in while things are still low, but things are still really affordable. And but it also refers to not just the economy, but people. And there's so many people that have been affected by this recession, and I've seen a lot of people that are struggling to rebuild their wealth. And I've had the good fortune of being able to travel around the world several times, and what I've noticed as I've traveled is that there's people in other parts of the world that they live from day to day, and they're just grateful for meeting their needs every day, and they're very, very happy people. And here in North America, where we have a lot more material goods, we seem to be a lot less happy. And I think a lot of people buy material things to make up for the fact they go to a job they hate, but it's like, well, it was worth it because now I got this boat, or it was worth it because I got this big TV, or whatever their toy of choice might be. And these toys make you happy for a short period of time, but it's kind of like a drug where you need something bigger and better, especially if your neighbor gets a bigger boat than you. It's like, oh. Mm-hmm. So I just see people that are, down because, they're too reliant on external things to make them happy. And I think happiness lies within. And a lot of things that people may not even, have experienced as they're, when they're rebuilding. Maybe if they knew in advance and they were strategic on how they were rebuilding, they could do something that made them really happy. And so for me, what I found is, I did a project a number of years ago in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and we took some homes and we fixed them up, and we brought back some families that got displaced by the storm, and we couldn't afford to just give them away for free, but we sold them below market value and helped these people get back on their feet. And although that wasn't my most profitable project, that was a project that lights me up the most when I talk about it. I can't wait to talk about that project. And so I think giving back, and one of the things that allows me to give back more is to have the freedom. And once again, that all comes back to the passive income. So these things are all intertwined. And I think I see a lot of people that are, like I said, really down. As I told you, last week I was in San Antonio, and I was walking back to a parking garage where I was parked, and I saw somebody literally jump off the parking garage to their death right in front of me. And I think that was a sign that it's time to get this book out there. But there's a lot of people that are really down right now, and they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I had an experience when I was much younger where I went through depression. I was in a car accident, and I basically became a homebody for 8 months, which is totally not my style. And I actually became very, very depressed and suicidal at one point. And I managed to pull myself out of that without the use of drugs. And so I see all these people that are in despair, and they just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I want to get that message out there that, I went from being at my lowest point to once I finally pulled myself out to my highest, because then I started to realize that every day is important. You got to treat every day like it's your last. And I put more value on life and time in general. And so I have a message I want to get out there that I think it helps some people that are maybe in that position in their life where they just don't see at the end of the turmoil that's going on. And I want to show them that you can bounce back from that. And everything follows a cycle. Real estate follows a cycle. The economy in general follows a cycle. And people's lives follow a cycle. And, when you hit bottom, the only way to go is back up. And so, I want people to hang in there. But as they rebuild strategically and create something for themselves where they're happier than they were even before that. And that's kind of the message. So I think there's never been a better time to get that message out there than right now.
No, I agree. So you're not only talking about a comeback in real estate, but you're talking about a comeback in attitude.
In life.
And hope.
Exactly. And just, I think the world's becoming, a much better place. We're more connected with more people than ever. We have the ability to get our messages out there. I just think of how many people are depressed right now, and they've got, something in their brain that if they were in the right frame of mind, they could be creating and sharing, and it's all wasted because they're locked up in some dark room somewhere, and I can relate to that. And so I want to help these people get back, and as they get back, hopefully help them, rebuild something that they're passionate about, because I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what my life, and like I said, I treat every day like it's my last, and enjoy it and make it productive, as productive as I can. And so, I think there's so many people out there that are suffering, particularly in the United States right now with this recession. They've lost everything, and they just don't see how they're going to rebuild. Well, I think when you're stuck in that cycle, it's very hard to see what's past. Where your headlights are focused, and if all you see is bad, and all you focus on is bad, you don't see the good. And there's a lot of great stuff coming down the pipeline. So it's my mission to help these people.
All right. Well, we've been talking today with Mike Wolf. You can find him online, MikeWolfMastery.com. Is there any last thing you'd like to leave our listeners with, Mike?
Well, let's see. I think the big thing, if you're listening right now, is if you have any way to get yourself, not necessarily just in the real estate, but just creating passive income. I think for most people, they, like I said, they're spending money on toys, and I just think if you rebuild strategically and start taking advantage of what's out there, don't be one of those people that looks back 10 years from now and says, "Oh, I wish I would have done this, in 2013." Just be an action taker and do your homework, get educated, make sure you know what you're doing. But once you do that, start building something for yourself where don't rely on the government to take care of you when you get to retirement. You're in big trouble if you do that. Just take care of your own financial situation by getting financially literate. It doesn't mean you have to become a real estate investor if that's not your thing, but definitely know where your money is going. What's your retirement money invested in? Look after it yourself. Don't let other people who don't have your interest in mind look after it. That's my final words, I'd say.
Great final words. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Experts Weekly, hosted by Bob Baer. Experts Weekly, where best-selling experts reveal proven strategies, tools, and tactics on publishing, marketing, branding, public speaking, and publicity that you can use and implement to succeed, profit, and make an impact. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Central Time, and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information, contact radio@bestsellingexperts.com. See you again next week.